Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Petro Poroshenko. He was Ukraine's president between 2014 and 2019. He joins us from Kiev. Thank you very much for being our guest today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Mr. Poroshenko, the Ukrainian soldiers are being evacuated from the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol. They're being evacuated into Russian-controlled areas. Are you worried about their fate?
Definitely yes. First of all, Mariupol soldiers is a symbol of the bravery, is the symbol of the heroism, not only for Ukraine, but for the whole free world. Can you imagine that 83 days without food, without ammunition, without water, they keep fighting, tired for 20,000 Russian troops, not giving them to develop the offensive operation on the other direction. And with this situation, I want to, first of all, appreciate the efforts of the General Secretary of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, the President of the ICRC, Peter Maurer, Turkish President Erdogan, and many, many others who undertake the enormous efforts to evacuate Ukrainian soldiers. But please, again, my request, don't trust Putin. Putin put Ukrainian heroes in the prison on Alenivka. And with this situation, we, the whole world, want to know when the Ukrainian soldiers will be free and when Ukrainian soldiers will be back to Ukraine. And we should concentrate our efforts to make a pressure. And with this, it's important to know the condition of withdrawal of evacuation the Ukrainian soldiers from the Azovstal, and definitely we need a verification about the condition the Russians keep Ukrainian heroes.
Right, because there are already calls in Russia, even in the Duma in Moscow, to have those soldiers prosecuted. I mean, do you trust that the Ukrainian authorities have very strong guarantees, and what are those guarantees worth if they come from Vladimir Putin?
Look, I don't have this information, and better to ask Ukrainian negotiators who were involved in the process. I hate the idea now to make any comments, to make the position of Ukraine weaker. We don't allow them to do. But I have an experience for 5 years negotiation with Putin, from 14 to 19. And again, my recommendation, don't trust Putin, never ever. What Putin promised me, to release Nadia Savchenko or Oleg Sentsov or anybody else, because I want to remind you that we withdraw from the Russian prison more than 3,000 Ukrainian civilian and Ukrainian soldiers. And I know what does it mean. And with this situation, the world should be united. And remember, the Ukrainian soldiers in Azovstal, in Mariupol, fighting for our freedom, fighting for democracy, fighting to throw Russia back to the internationally recognized border of Russian Federation. And with that situation, definitely, you are absolutely right that the discussion we have yesterday in the Russian Duma, in the Russian parliament, that they will torture Ukrainian heroes, this is exactly a way of thinking of Putin, of crazy and maniac Russian parliamentarian who initiated yesterday this dangerous proposition.
Right. I want to go back to the general situation on the ground. Russia has withdrawn from Kiev, where you are, from Kharkiv, but they seem to be making progress in the Donbass. They seem to be nearly in control. Are we going towards a partition of Ukraine with Russia controlling fully the Donbass?
First of all, this is not Russia withdraw. This is Ukrainian armed forces. And I'm proud that me as a president create Ukrainian armed forces since year 2014, because this is the strong and one of the strongest armed forces in Europe, on the continent. And we paying a very high price, but throw them away from from the territory around Kiev, from Chernigov, from Sumy, from Poltava, and now we are fighting to throw him away from Kharkiv. And this is just a demonstration that today is 12 weeks already, almost 3 months. And this is the Putin who promised to capture Ukraine in 3 days. And I just want to remind you that it was armed forces under me of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief, Ukrainian Armed Forces, to release from the Russian troops 2/3 of the occupied Donbass back to the year 2014. This is the truth. We have this experience. And definitely you are right that Russians is activate counter attack in offensive operation, and that's happening near Rubezhne, near Severodonetsk. They captured Popasna, and we understand how difficult is this fighting. But I just want to remind you that more than 28,000 Russian soldiers stay forever here as a payment for the crazy maniac idea to capture Ukraine from the Russian president. More than 4,500 Russian tanks and Russian armed personnel carrier, and more than 350 Russian jet fighter and helicopter. And why it started to be possible now, not only stop, but also to counterattack on this direction, Kharkiv, Kiev, because of your assistance, because of your heavy weapons, which at least we start to receive. Howitzer 37, the anti-aircraft missiles, anti-tank artillery. And I just want to remind you that the game changer condition is just 500 tanks or 1,000 combat vehicles. Just 100 jet fighter or 300 anti-aircraft missiles, and this has completely changed the whole future of Europe. This has completely changed the whole global security, and we are counting on your support. We are waiting for your support, and definitely I hope yesterday during the telephone conversation between Zelensky and Macron, we activate this cooperation, because what we need now for global security, 3 things: weapons, weapons, and weapons. Heavy weapons and anti-aircraft, embargo and sanction, and deputinize Putin's Russia. That's it.
Right. There are reports. Your successor, Volodymyr Zelensky, told in Italian media recently that he was not happy that the French president indicated that there should be diplomatic concessions to Russia. Do you agree with him that Europe should not even be talking to Putin at this point?
Look, I have a very positive experience from the cooperation with both French presidents with whom I worked. It's François Hollande and Emmanuel Macron. And I just want to remind you that the first gesture of support was cancel the contract on the French Mistral, which you promised to supply to Russia. Can you imagine that if Russia now has this helicopter carrier Mistral, that's definitely mean that that would be attack Odessa, and we have a significant, more difficult situation. We work effectively. And President Macron also is a great friend of Ukraine, is an experienced politician, and we now need the just better understanding of situation. First, it would be no compromise. This is the message for all the leaders of the free world. No compromise on territorial integrity. This is the same like to propose to France to give Putin for stability Provence or Corsica. Not possible. And second, this is no appeasement to the aggressor. Because Ukraine paying now, because Russian army fight not with Ukrainian soldiers. They rape, they tortured, they make a massacre against women, against children, against elderly people. And we never forget that. And we never forgive them. And we do our best to return our country back to the European family. We do our best for joining NATO and to make Europe secure, because you cannot find any other nation in the world who want peace more than we are. And we are ready for doing that, for diplomatic negotiation, for political diplomatic methods, and with the armed forces. But we need to separate this diplomatic negotiation. First, and this is again based on my experience for negotiation with Putin. First, this is just immediate and unconditioned ceasefire. This is withdrawal of the Russian troops. And this is the solving of all humanitarian problems, releasing the hostages and other things. And second, that would be condition for security. If Russia need any form of guarantee, we would be ready to do our best to guarantee that. And for this discussion, I want to again repeat my invitation for my friend and big friend of Ukraine, Emmanuel Macron, President of the French Republic, to visit Kyiv, because this is extremely important, and create the imagination when you see with your own eyes the disaster in Bucha, in Gostomel, in Borodyanka, in Andriivka, in Vorzel, in Chernigov, or in Kyiv, because I stay all 83 days here in Kyiv. And we have every single day and every single night cruise missiles who kill in the dozens of the civilians. We know what does it mean. And we keep the unity and keep the solidarity with France and with the world.
Petro Poroshenko, I want to thank you very much for appearing here on the France 24 interview from Kiev, and thank you for watching it.
Tout d'un coup, on a entendu des coups de feu. Tout le monde criait, tout le monde, qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Il y a les militaires blancs là qui tirent sur les rebelles de la guerre là.
On December 1st, 1944, in the military camp of Tiaroy on the outskirts of Dakar, a group of Senegalese riflemen were shot dead by their French brothers in arms. They had just been repatriated after having fought side by side and were simply asking to be paid. Described first as a mutiny, then as a revolt by the French army, this long-ignored episode is now thought to have been a deliberate massacre. 3 young artists are setting out to explore the memory of the tragedy.
La vérité finira par prévaloir. Et à ce moment-là, la réconciliation sincère et définitive devient possible.
Watch Reporters Plus, Tiaroy 44 on France 24 and France24.com.